Assalamu alaikum, sisters and brothers. I'm Nicolette Hodge.
Assalamu alaikum, sisters and brothers. I'm Malik Hodge, and this is We Reflect the Light. Welcome. This is where we look at current events that are taking place in the world today through the lens of the unsealed scriptures of the Bible that gives us detailed information on what is taking place in the world today and what is going to take place in the world in the near future from the unsealed scriptures of the Bible. Sisters and brothers, we are at war. Pass it.
All right, sisters and brothers. Today we're going to be identifying the war in the Middle East from the unsealed Bible. We'll be identifying the participants and the outcome and how this relates to the original black men and women right here in America. We're going to start off listening to a few news clips, identifying what's being said from the news perspective about this war, sisters and brothers, and then we'll get into the scriptures. All right, let's get right into it.
It is becoming clearer to people around the world that the United States has been losing the war against Iran, which the U.S. itself started. And this is being discussed not only in foreign countries, but also in Washington, D.C. Today I'm going to be explaining how neoconservative war hawks in Washington, who were architects of the Iraq War and the wars on Libya and Syria, and who for years advocated for war on Iran, have now reluctantly admitted that the U.S. is losing this war, and it's going to have massive geopolitical repercussions on the entire world, leading to the weakening of the U.S. empire, and not only the strengthening of Iran, but also other countries, including China, Russia, and the global south as a whole. Now, independent anti-war voices like us have already been saying this, but what's incredible is it's now being acknowledged even by warmongers in Washington, D.C., again, who are some of the architects of the Iraq War, like this man I'm showing an image of right now. I'll be discussing who exactly he is and what he's saying in a minute or two here. But a brief summary of his argument is that the U.S. is losing this war against Iran, and this loss is going to have an even bigger geopolitical impact than the U.S. loss in the wars against Vietnam and Afghanistan, and this will transform global geopolitics and will strengthen the position of China and Russia and the global south more broadly, and the role of the U.S. will be weakened around the world. So in a moment here, I'm going to go into further detail and explain who the author of the article was. But first, I want to answer the question, why are pro-war neoconservative hawks in Washington admitting this fact? And I think it's quite clear. It's because they can see the writing on the wall. They can see that Trump is extremely unpopular, especially because of this war, but also because of inflation and the cost of living crisis and corruption. But this war has really hurt Trump's popularity even more, and polls show that the vast majority of Americans, at least 60%, and some polls show an even higher percentage of Americans, oppose this war. So now I want to spend a moment briefly explaining the context and how the discourse surrounding the Iran war has evolved in the past few weeks. Now, the U.S. and Israel launched this war of aggression on the 28th of February, and a month later, the British newspaper The Independent acknowledged that Iran was the clear winner, as Trump's desperate bid to end the war shows that he's desperately looking for an off-ramp. This was the foreign media, European media outlets started to acknowledge after a month that the U.S. was losing. Then, in mid-April, some U.S. corporate media outlets started to acknowledge that the war was not going well. The Wall Street Journal published an op-ed titled, "For now at least, the Iran war seems to be failing." And this was written by the former editor-in-chief of the Wall Street Journal, who was previously a major supporter of Donald Trump, although he later turned against Trump. Meanwhile, U.S. intelligence agencies have been feeding information to U.S. media outlets, acknowledging that the war has been going very badly. The New York Times reported this May that U.S. intelligence shows that Iran still has the vast majority of its missile capabilities. Iran has operational access to 30 of its 33 missile sites along the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz is the narrow strait off the coast of Iran, and it's the world's most important oil transit choke point. Before this war, about 20% of the globally traded oil supply passed through this narrow strait on a daily basis. Iran had initially closed down access to the Strait of Hormuz in response to the U.S.-Israeli war of aggression, although Iran has allowed ships from China and Russia and India and countries that it considers to be friendly countries, their ships are allowed to pass through the strait. This angered Washington, so Trump declared a U.S. naval blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. However, U.S. intelligence officials also admitted in an article published by the Washington Post that Iran will be able to withstand this U.S. military blockade of the Strait of Hormuz for many months. Iran actually has leverage. Iran has an advantage here, whereas the U.S. is the country that is not able to maintain this blockade for so long, especially when you consider the fact that Trump's war of aggression has caused the largest oil crisis in history, and this is causing a global economic crisis and a food crisis, because many farmers cannot get access to the fertilizers they need to grow food. And then finally, U.S. intelligence officials admitted to the media that Iran has succeeded in defending itself and destroying or heavily damaging the majority of U.S. military bases in the region, in West Asia, also known as the Middle East. Trump, of course, denied this, but the fact that U.S. intelligence officials are leaking so much to the media is a reflection of the fact that this war is obviously going extremely badly. And Trump and his top cabinet members will go out and claim that they're winning the war, but all of these leaks from these U.S. intelligence officials clearly demonstrate that the exact opposite is happening.
All right. Brief commentary before we move to the next clip. America's top officials are admitting that America is losing this war and that Iran is winning the war. Iran is strengthening itself day by day. So, as we stated, we're just starting off with what the news is saying, sisters and brothers. We're getting to the scriptures. We know the outcome. We know who's aligned on each side. So, do you have any commentary? All right, let's keep moving.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The war is turning Iran into a major world power. That's the headline of a new op-ed in the New York Times by our next guest, Robert Pape, professor of political science at the University of Chicago. Professor Pape writes Iran's control over the Strait of Hormuz could help elevate Iran to become a fourth center of global power, along with the United States, China, and Russia. Pape writes, quote, if Iranian control over the strait persists for months or years, as I believe it may, it will drastically reshape the global order to the detriment of the United States, unquote. Professor Pape joins us now from London. Welcome to Democracy Now!, Professor. Can you lay out your argument, why you believe the war is turning Iran into a major world power?
Yes, thank you very much for having me. What most people know is that Iran is causing oil shortages through selective blockade using drones and mines. I'm going one step further. I'm discussing the power that selective blockade gives Iran today, in the coming months, and in the coming years. It is power because of geography. The choke point at Hormuz is geographically perfectly located to allow Iran to selectively control the shipping through Hormuz, which means it can use that selective control as leverage to gain political power in the Gulf, change the hierarchy, change the balance of power in the Gulf from a balance to a hierarchy where Iran now is at the top of the hierarchy. And if other states do not accept Iran's power, they lose tremendous gross domestic product. Also in Asia, the power that Iran has to cause the Asian states to distance themselves from the United States is already evident, and that's only going to grow over time because Asia is ground zero for the economic shock effects that Iran can have with its selective blockade. Then on top of that, when you look at the United States, look at how little power the United States has for its basings, with its basing structure in the Persian Gulf. We know the United States has bases in Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, but look how vulnerable those bases are, how much they've actually had to stand down operations, and our own aircraft carriers are 1,000 miles away from the Persian Gulf for fear that they will be hit and sunk. What all this adds up to is growing power of Iran, diminishing power of the United States, and on top of all of that, Amy, over the next months and year, there will be $100 billion of oil revenues going into Iran and Chinese banks that can be used to transform that nuclear-enriched material into working nuclear weapons. And if we can't destroy the drones in those deep caves, what makes us think we're really going to stop Iran from becoming a nuclear power in the next 6 months or a year? You add all that up, and Iran will become a nuclear weapons oil hegemon in the near future, in the coming months, coming years. That means it will be the fourth center of world power.
All right, sisters and brothers. Brief commentary on this clip here. They're admitting, their analysts are saying that Iran has quite a bit of leverage. Closing parts of the Strait of Hormuz, or this selective blockade that's taking place, this is Iran's. They're saying that Iran is on its way to becoming a major world power. And the type of leverage that is being displayed here with this selective blockade is showing that the ball is really in Iran's court. So all of Iran's enemies, America, Britain, false Israel, the House of Saud, they are at the mercy of Iran in this war. So would you like to add any commentary?
No, ma'am.
All right, let's keep moving, sisters and brothers. All right, the book of Revelations. Chapter 12, verse 7 through 9 identifies the war in heaven. Heaven is the Middle East, sisters and brothers. And occurred war in the heaven. The Michael and the angels of him, of the two war with the dragon. And the dragon warred and the angels of it. And not it proved strong. Not but place was found of them yet in the heaven. And was thrown the dragon the great, the serpent the archaic, the being called devil and the Satan, the making to err, the being inhabited whole. He was thrown into the earth, and the angels of him with him were thrown. So we're given a location, war in heaven, which is the Middle East. That's where the war is occurring. And we have two groups fighting against each other, Michael and his angels versus the dragon and his angels. All right, and then we're given an outcome. It shares, and the dragon warred and the angels of it, and not it proved strong. Not but place was found of them yet in the heaven, which is the Middle East. And was thrown the dragon the great, the serpent the archaic, the being called devil and the Satan, the making to err the being inhabited whole. He was thrown into the earth, and the angels of him with him were thrown. So, again, we're given the outcome. Michael and his angels are victorious, and the dragon and his angels are defeated. And we're given details in the manner of which they are defeated. They're not going to be walking out. It will not be a surrender. It's not a peace talk. It shows that they will be thrown out of the Middle East. So that means they will be forcefully removed from the Middle East by Michael and his angels. So that right there sheds light, we're reflecting the light on the reality of what it is that we would expect any day now. Trump is lying. He's saying, peace talks, negotiations, which that proved not to be the case. However, he still lies every day. It will not be a deal. There will not be they will not be, it says they will be thrown out. So that identifies that they're not going to retreat. They're not going to willingly. The dragon and his angels are not going to willingly leave the Middle East. They will be forcefully removed. They will be thrown out of the Middle, thrown out of the Middle East. So as we move forward, we will identify who Michael and his angels are and who the dragon and his angels are.
Michael and his angels are Master Farad Muhammad, and his angels are Iran and Syria. And the dragon and his angels are, the dragon is the house of Saud, Saudi Arabia. And the angels of him, or his angels, are America, false Israel, and Britain. These are the countries that are at war right now and have gave a statement of entering into the war against Iran. As of entering the war, Iran is at war against the dragon and his angels, America, Britain, and false Israel, as well as the House of Saud, Saudi Arabia. So, this is what we're witnessing right now in the world today. This is the war that has been taking place, that is taking place in the Middle East. I want to say begin officially, well, the first attack from false Israel in America was 2025, June 3rd, when killing Iran's supreme leader, and I want to say 187 or 67 school girls. The second attack after petitioning a ceasefire took place in February the 28th, and the war really continues. They're trying to negotiate, and as they it's not a ceasefire right now, that's for sure, but they're holding back, and the talks, Iran has pulled out of all talks at this time in the war. They're not sending any, they're not talking. They pull out of all communication or all talks at this time due to false Israel's consistent attacks on Lebanon. Lebanon is directly stated by Iran that in any peace talks or ceasefires or whatever they want to call them, that it has to include Lebanon and Gaza, where you can't attack none of them. False Israel can't be attacking Lebanon, and that's not what's happening. False Israel is consistently attacking Lebanon, and at this time, Iran has responded on behalf of Lebanon because they gave a clear understanding of what they would do, and they have consistently kept their word. So false Israel attack on Lebanon, and Iran stated that if they keep attacking Lebanon, that they will attack or bomb northern Israel. And yesterday, that's exactly what they done. Iran bombed, I don't know how many bombs, but they bombed northern Israel yesterday, and states, and they gave a warning, as they always do, to the Israeli people. If you don't want to die, if you don't want to be injured, get out of the northern Israel. Leave, because we're going to bomb it. And Iran keeps their word every time. And so this is what we're witnessing. Trump is playing, America and Israel always playing this good cop, bad cop role. Trump's trying, he holds the card. However, Netanyahu is doing what he wants to do, as if America don't know what's taking place, when there's nothing to even carry out the strikes. They need assistance, right, to even carry out the strikes. So America knows exactly what's taking place when it's taking place, and then they want to act like they're not, that they don't have anything to do with it, or they're upset. That's that good cop, bad cop role that they play. but they know what's taking place, and I think I'm going too far.
Oh, you're doing great. In addition to what you just shared about how, the bottom line is that America and false Israel are aligned with each other. It just clearly shares that in the book of Revelations. That's the dragon's angels, America, false Israel, and Britain. So Trump tries to play this game as if, him and Netanyahu are against each other. However, they are in fact aligned with each other. So don't be deceived by that, sisters and brothers. There's more history. Yes, America and the false Israel, the Jews, have been at each other's throats. That's a whole nother discussion. However, the point of the matter is they are aligned with each other in this war. And they're also aligned with each other against us, sisters and brothers. Because why is false Israel over there in the Middle East to begin with? They're not the true seed of Abraham. That's not their land. They're not in a land that was promised to Abraham's seed. They claim that they're the true seed of Abraham. However, they don't have any history to back up that claim. And they also admitted themselves in the scriptures that they have never been in bondage to any man. They have admitted that they don't have the history of Abraham's seed. And the book of Revelations identifies that false Israel is the synagogue of Satan. So they're over there fraudulently. And America and Britain is the ones that established false Israel over there in 1948 to counter Elijah Muhammad's claim that the original black man and woman right here in North America is the true seed of Abraham. And he showed the proof. So don't be deceived, sisters and brothers. Trump is playing games, is acting as if they're not aligned, or they're not, have the same mission, when in reality they do. They're part of the same group. They're the dragon's angels. They also have the same bloodline. So they're in sync with each other from that perspective. So would you like to add anything before we move forward?
No, you can go, because I think I was just supposed to be giving who to Michael and his angels.
Fertilizer shortages are becoming.
All right, sisters and brothers. So here we are. Give me one moment. Okay, it's moving pretty quick. All right. So this is where we have a few more clips. And why is that? Well, we know the outcome of the war. Michael and his angels are going to be victorious, and the dragon and his angels will be defeated. So before we get into how that's going to affect the economy, we're going to see what the news is saying about the economy. And then we're going to give some commentary on that, because we know that Iran has a selective blockade with the Strait of Hormuz. So let's hear what the news is saying about that, and then we'll come back and we'll get into the situation with the economic collapse. All right.
Fertilizer shortages are becoming a key factor for farmers. Analysts say it's already shifting expectations for the year ahead. Rabobank projects U.S. farmers will plant nearly 96 million acres of corn and more than 83 million acres of soybeans this spring, largely unaffected by rising input costs. But in other parts of the world, disruptions from the Middle East could hit hardest. Brazil, India, and Australia could limit crop expansion and reduce yields. Analysts say those pressures are most likely to affect farmers with less access to credit, raising concerns for global food production and long-term supply.
Right, let's keep moving.
Due to the ongoing US, Israel, and Iran conflict, we must prepare for a severe food shortage. Most people think only oil passes through the Strait of Hormuz, but that is simply not true. This narrow waterway is also an important route for global fertilizer. Reportedly, around 50% of the world's traded urea fertilizer moves directly through the Strait of Hormuz. If this military standoff continues, a global food crisis is inevitable. Urea plays a critical role in food production, and the biggest producers are located around the Persian Gulf, including Iran, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. Large shipments from these nations pass through this route daily. If the strait remains disrupted, we face a massive fertilizer crisis. When supply drop, global agriculture is heavily affected. Dependent countries like Pakistan, India, Brazil, and African nations will face major problems. If this route stays blocked, the impact goes beyond energy markets, triggering higher food prices, lower crop production, and severe shortages. Tell me below what will happen next.
All right, we have one more, sisters and brothers.
Farmers across America are not planting. The fertilizer price wave hasn't even hit yet. When farmers stop, every grocery store in America empties, and the damage won't stop until every household feels it. I want to go through a real story that's not really being talked about on mainstream media and how you can actually prepare for it right now. You see, planting never happened, not the way it was supposed to this year. American farmers are stuck between a rock and a hard place. Input costs that doubled and crop prices that didn't even move. There's no profit for a lot of farmers right now. See, if you plant, you lose money. If you don't plant, you lose land if you don't own it. And the USDA just confirmed it, the lowest wheat acreage in over 107 years of recorded data. This is already bad from the Iran fertilizer crisis. But it's actually getting worse. And if you feel it, if you don't feel it now, you're going to feel it really soon. So let me break a little bit of this down. Tommy Salisbury Farms in Oklahoma, he leads the Farm Bureau's Young Farmers and Ranchers program. He said it on record, said we are paying input prices of 2026, we're getting crop prices of the 1970s and the 1980s. Lorenda Overman Farms in North Carolina, her fertilizer and nitrogen costs have jumped massively this season, about 56%. That means it's 56% more expensive to grow her crops. The price that she'll get for what she harvests hasn't moved. These aren't economics or economists, reading charts. These are people standing in fields like this, looking at the soil, looking at the costs and saying this doesn't add up. Planting crops that they know will actually lose money because the alternative is not planting at all and possibly losing their land if they can't keep making the payments or the rent payments, right? On March 31st, the USDA confirmed what farmers actually already knew. The prospective plantings report, based on surveys of nearly 74,000 farm operators, showed that all wheat planted in the country was about 43.8 million acres. This is the lowest level since records began in 1919. Again, 107 years of American agriculture. The country just recorded its lowest wheat planting in the entire history of the data. And if you're a farmer, I would love it if you put down in the comments below what you're experiencing right now so I can learn more about what's going on. See, people don't realize that this report was captured way before the worst of the fertilizer spike hit because the survey was taken in the first 2 weeks of March 2026. The number that you're looking at is actually the optimistic version. The June update is where we're going to see the real damage from what happened in Iran and the blockade in the Strait of Hormuz. You see, two items are at the front of this cascade, and I'm going to get to them. But first, you need to understand why the planting data is worse than what the report shows, right? Who's telling you that it's fine when it isn't, and what the farmers themselves are doing right now? That tells you exactly where prices are heading, okay? So Josh Linville, the VP of fertilizer at StoneX Group, posted the 6-week damage report from the Hormuz closure on April 10th. Said urea is up 49%. Liquid nitrogen is up 38%. I always pronounce it wrong. Andriasis ammonia is up 32%, and GAP is up 21%. Those are the 4 inputs, the fertilizer inputs, that determine whether a crop grows to full yield or comes in thin, like what you're seeing in this photo. Every one of them spiked after this survey was actually taken. USDA's own break-even math tells you those numbers do a farmer's decision for them, right? When corn costs $5 a bushel to grow in 2026, between the seeds, fertilizer, the fuel, the land, the labor, right? But it only sells for $4.20 a bushel? That doesn't make sense. When soybeans cost $127 to produce, and they'll sell for, or a lot less to produce, was like, I don't remember the per acre, they sell for a lot more. The government is pushing data showing American farmers are growing food below the cost of production. So what do? They dive into things like soybeans, right? The American Farm Bureau Federation surveyed farmers directly. 70% of them said they can't afford enough fertilizer this season. And again, look down below into the comments and see what the farmers are saying. It also showed that 19% of Southern farmers actually pre-ordered ahead of the spike when it comes to their fertilizer, right? 78% of them say they can't afford what they need, and 48% of Midwest farmers are in the exact same position. So what are they doing? Well, they're cutting wheat, the most nitrogen-hungry grain, because the nitrogen costs are prohibitive, and they're switching to soybeans. They're cheaper to grow, lower fertilizer demand. Soybean acres are actually up 4%, but the more soybean acres doesn't mean more food on the shelf. An AFDF economist, Faith Hum, said this: when producers cannot afford full fertilizer application rates, they may reduce nutrient use or shift acreage decisions, both of which of these increase the risk of lower yields. They're planting more soybeans because it's cheaper, not because the market needs them. And the soybeans are getting planted and receiving even thinner fertilizer. So you get more acres, right? Less nutrition per acre, and higher risk of a thin harvest on the wheat and corn that goes into the ground. So nitrogen is spread thinner, weaker plants, lower per acre yields, and more vulnerability to drought and pests. See, 57% of winter wheat acres are already under drought conditions, which is up from 37% at the same time last year. 3 pressures are now compounding on the same crop at the exact same time, and the relief isn't coming fast enough. Now, Linville at StoneX again says it takes 30 days to get a vessel of urea to load it up in the Persian Gulf, sail it over here to the U.S., hit the U.S. stores or the shores, and then another 3 to 4 weeks to move that product from the stores to the interior, to the farmers, okay? The window from spring application has closed pretty much. The Strait could open any day now, but it's too late. The fertilizer takes 2 months to reach the field. The planting calendar doesn't wait for that. One more thing that the press has missed. Not only that, we've seen like some record drought numbers for the first quarter of this year already. You see, the press keeps missing it. Another thing that they missed is the rate for this year's planting report, which was 37.6, which is the lowest in the survey's history. Pro Farmer flagged it directly, saying fewer farmers answered than ever before.
All right, sisters and brothers. So that's it for that part. America is admitting, not to the full extent, however, they are expressing how this war is putting a strain on the economy, and how America has missed the planting season because America relies on a lot of resources from the Middle East to enrich their soil so that they can produce crops, so that they can have food in the grocery store. So this economic collapse is already in motion, sisters and brothers. This famine is underway as we speak. And even if the Strait of Hormuz was opened up right now, they just told you it would take 2 months to even be able to get those plants in the ground, get those seeds in the ground, and what, we're in June now, so what, not until August? So they've totally missed the spring season. So America's in a lot of trouble, sisters and brothers. They're not telling you how bad it is. However, by the time it's fully realized, it's going to be too late. So that's why we're here letting you know in advance. This economic destruction is heading towards America. So let's keep moving, sisters and brothers. All right, so now we're moving into more more commentary about this economic collapse.
The scriptures share that, well,
If you live in the United States, be prepared for this warning.
now, sisters and brothers, this what's being shared from the clip is what the reaction is from the closing, Iran closing the Strait of Hormuz. This, and it's having it's hurting just more than having higher gas prices. It's affecting the farmers, the growing process, because the topsoil in America, they don't have enough topsoil, so they have to add in fertilizers to grow, to have strong yields. And the fertilizer prices are shooting through the roof, of the fertilizer that's available. And the fertilizer that comes in from the Middle East is what is shared that is what, 50% of the world's fertilizers come in from the Middle East. That means 50% of the whole world's fertilizer moves through the Strait of Hormuz. And the outcome of holding or suspending that fertilizer is affecting not just the America's growing process or growing planting season, it's affecting the whole world's seasonal planting period. And then as the man shared that they're not growing what they want to grow because the ground has not been treated. It won't produce, or it doesn't have enough what's that word? Nitro. The fertilizers, the ground is not fertile enough to produce what the plants need. So the fertilizer that is needed to produce to cause the yield or the plants to grow,
right?
They don't have the ground doesn't have it, and 50% of the world's fertilizer comes through that Strait of Hormuz. So this is another catastrophic event taking place on the world, as well as the energy that you need, the diesel, the things that you need to transport and to in every aspect. You need the energy, you need the gas, the diesel, to do all the other things that you need it for your tractors, and you need it for everything. And it's shared that the prices are so staggering that these things are not being talked about in the media. But the farmers who are the ones dealing with these scenarios, and they don't have the money to deal with them. They don't have the fertilizer to plant what they need to plant, and the yields are going to be far less than what they usually produce, and the types of what they do produce are less as well, because they started out without being able to plant everything that they want. So they have to plant more of something that they don't want or don't need. He said it's not a need to plant more of it, it's just what they can plant. So it's at economic collapse, and one aspect is an economic collapse, but then it's a food shortage on the other hand. So you got economic collapse with a food shortage. So it's not like, okay, the government can distribute the food, no, it's a lack of food, the economic collapse. So it's a preparing for what they will call, or is called, famine. Because it's a lack of food. That means there's no food. And when there's no food, they call that a food, not just a food shortage. It's a famine coming because they're not producing what is needed to feed the masses.
Yes, sir. In addition to that, it's a famine of all resources that's needed to even run America's economy, because they need oil they need they need the oil for the electricity. They need oil to be able to get those, they need oil to even grow things, sisters and brothers, to put the seeds into the ground and to harvest. They need oil to transport that food around and get it in the grocery stores. They need it for their airplanes. They need it for the air conditioner. They need the oil to clean water. They need oil for everything. So with Iran winning the war and cutting off that oil supply 100%, that means America's lights will be turned off overnight, immediately. And all of this to come to a screeching halt, sisters and brothers. Yes, sir. Oh, I thought you was coming in. So we're stepping into unprecedented times, sisters and brothers, unprecedented trouble. And there will not be any food here soon. Like they were saying on the news, by the time it's realized, it's really be too late, because it won't, America's not going to really comprehend the gravity, the weight of this situation until it's harvest time, and there is nothing to harvest.
Oh. What's taking place is the acceptance to what's taking place. They're not accepting what's actually happening. They're overlooking what reality is sharing. They're thinking that, oh, we got it, because America thinks, they're not going to be affected by the energy shortage, because they're parts of America are receiving energy from someone else, and it's not even the facts. I mean, it's not even the truth, the total truth, but that's what they're telling themselves, and they don't understand, or well, they're not looking at what the conditions are going to be, because they think they have it figured out. Right. However, they can't, something to prepare for it, how much you have and how fast you will run through it. I know if you go to the store, you go in your stores and you see plenty of food made. You see expiration dates on them. Where's that food going? So the waste, it's not all the things that America do. They do it. They're used to doing it, so they're not counting the waste and how much the resources that they have fall into the waste category. So when you're not trying to catch the waste, you're not adding that up, you're gonna look around and you're going on as normal, but everything is never, as everything is far short. All your overhead or your product, you have very way less, but you're continuing at the same pace, and your waste is at the same pace when you don't have as much you don't have as much in stock, and what's coming, you don't have that, you don't have no restock coming, but you're still moving in the same pace. So when you finally come to a head, you so far behind, you done wasted so much, you till it's going to be catastrophic once they turn and figure out that wait, we didn't ran through, or Americans didn't ran through, a lot more than they, because their normal motion,
Right.
is a lot of waste.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, a lot of having, because they are so used to, well, we have it all. So they in their mind, they don't understand, it's not gonna hit them until it's right in their face and everyone is dealing with it.
Right. That's a great point you made, brother. You're sharing that they have totally miscalculated this situation. They have miscalculated it, and by the time they realize, it's going to be too late. America is one of the most wasteful countries on the planet. They have been, they're in their season, because we're actually in a transition from the winter into the spring season. And in the wintertime, they were just taking and, wasting and having as much as they wanted, even more than their share, taking from every nation, taking food, had all these, it's coming out that America's topsoil is not what you may have thought it was. America is damn near a barren land. However, they're still moving as if the winter season is not quickly fading away. So once the spring season comes in, it'd be a complete shock for them. Not for us, because we're here reflecting this light, letting you know in advance. And the whole thing about the economic collapse, the other side of that, sisters and brothers, that we have been promised our own economics. We have our own land. We have a door out of America's destruction. So this economic collapse is actually good for us, sisters and brothers, because we have to let go of this entire reality so that we can accept and move and fulfill our vision, which is the Abrahamic covenant. They don't have a door out. This is it for them. So they will be, resorting to cannibalism, and they also plan to attack us. They're planning a cannibal attack on us. That's why they have us still in the U.S. Constitution classified as 3/5 human. So they have us classified as animals, which is a source of food during the time period of famine. So that's another miscalculation on their end, because they won't be successful, and that's a weapon formed against us. It will not prosper, sisters and brothers. However, I wanted to identify that there's two sides to this economic collapse. It's great for us, and it's dreadful for them, because they will not be getting any food, period, once this takes place. That's it for them. They will be eating each other. However, for us, we will eat, we will drink, we will rejoice, we will be happy. So that lets you know right there that we achieved victory during this this battle, during this war period. We will be successful. So, yes, sir.
I want to say, as you said it exactly right. However, sisters and brothers, we are going to be affected by what we're witnessing. We will be affected by the economic collapse, because the system, this thinking, this world as that we're living in, is going to collapse in our face.
Right.
This world that we're living in is going to be snatched up off and up under our feet. So yes, you're going to know that you can't go buy gas,
Right.
that you can't do. We're going to feel that. You're going to know that all hell is broke loose. You can't go in the store to buy nothing, and if you did, you might get trampled, or you might get robbed and killed trying to get it in your car or trying to get home. So we're going, as the sister said, to be successful. However, we will experience this collapse. We're going to live through it. So we're going to physically see this. That's why it's being shared with you in advance that this is what's coming. That's why they're sharing. Oh, you should prepare for this. And if you're thinking, oh, that's not going to happen, prepare anyway. Responsible, thinking person will prepare for what might happen or what can happen. Let's say it like that. We know from the scripture this is what is going to happen, but even if you don't think it's going to happen, it's best to prepare, because when it happens, or if you're thinking, and if it does happen and you're not prepared, then you and yours still are going to suffer because you're not prepared. You didn't listen. You said it wasn't going to happen, and you didn't prepare for what was being shared with you, so you overlooked it. And then you think that you can make do or do something when it's already, once the effect is vivid or right in your face, it's absolutely happening, or it's live and direct. And then you want to get into action. Oh, you're too late. It's matter of fact, the prices are going higher, so you're gonna have to spend more. And that's why, as shared, sisters and brothers, prepare. Get yourself, in any case, at least 30 days worth of food, at least 30 days worth of water, a flashlight. Prepare yourself for what is being shared with you. Some blatantly, some is coming directly out if you're looking, but many of our people are in the blind, are not being shared this. They're not coming on the news telling you to prepare. You have to be looking and searching for the truth that is being shared, that is being told of what's really taking place. Now you're looking at the news, they're not telling you the truth. They're not going to tell you, well, you need to stock up, because no. They don't tell you. They tell you to keep moving in your regular routine up until all hell breaks loose, and then you're stuck trying to make something out of nothing. And you've been told far in advance to prepare for what's coming. Have these, just a few essentials. And for those that does, and things, and it does happen, and then you're prepared for it. But if you just overlook it and it comes to pass like it's being shared with you, and you was too cocky, too bullheaded, or too, it's not you what's that? Discarded it. Sisters and brothers, the truth is being shared with you of what is coming to America, to the world. They're not just sharing that this is 50% of the world's. That's not America. 50%, no, of the world. That's nations. When they start speaking, they say India, Africa. They label a whole continent, whole countries that got billions of people. So it's a shortage there. It's a shortage in these other countries already. So they're letting us know that, there's going to be a shortage in all throughout the world. So what you think you're getting from this country, that country, they're short. So how you think you're going to get anything from them? You're going to be no one's going to be passing things from their country. You have to pay attention, because in 2025, China stopped sending out certain things, certain items from their country. They storing it because they start looking ahead. They are seeing, oh, wait a minute. And what this war, what is happening, what the backlash going to be. This is not nothing new, sisters and brothers. They shared that this is a cycle of what each war has put on, and what the outcome has been, and who the people it affects the most. In every war, who is affected the most here in America? Pretty much across the world. Who was affected the most? Africa. And America is the original black man and woman. You already know the other original countries, Haiti and things like they suffer from lack of food and resources on a norm. So when it's a lack, so it's going to affect us. It's going to affect us even more. So, sisters and brothers, saying that is to pay attention. Don't be bullheaded. Put something up. Get yourself 30 days worth of food, 30 days worth of water.
That does not need to be cooked.
That doesn't need, no. So you got some bottled water, you got some things put up so that you can at least put something in your stomach for 30 days. Because it's a precautionary.
Yes, sir. Have it in your car, ready to go, sisters and brothers.
You got to be ready to move.
At any moment. So the whole point that we identify is we want to be proactive instead of reactive. So that's what the whole situation of preparing is about. Proactive, so that we can, lessen the uncomfortability that we're about to experience. It's going to be uncomfortable, sisters and brothers. However, we want to manage that as much as we can. So that's why we're preparing.
So you don't want to be moving and doing this, but your stomach is growling. At least you can have you you know, some food.
Right.
If it's chips or your whatever and dip and your mangoes or
Cans of sardines.
canned sardines or whatever, however, whatever it is, your stomach ain't growling. You got something to drink, something to put in your stomach, something that you can move off of.
Yes, sir. We have to get to the safety point. We have to get to the point where the food is gonna be at for us. So that's a transition period.
Exactly.
And we want to have our children as, comfortable as possible in that transition period. And as like Brother Malik said, sustain ourselves so we can even have the energy to get through it. So, yes, sir. Would you like to add anything else?
Oh, well, no, we can go move on. I don't know where you.
Well, that brings this segment right here to a close.
Oh.
And then we'll be back with more. And thank you for having us, sisters and brothers.
Assalamu
Assalamu
alaikum.
alaikum.